It's hard to think of anything more American than high school football. It's a way of life in many towns and has been immortalized on TV and films for decades. There is a dark side to this sport, though. Christy Collins did a research paper that showed that every year thousands of high school students are injured while playing full contact football. The only question is, how high will this number have to get before anything is done about it? I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking to you about some of the injuries associated with full contact high school football, some of the solutions currently in effect to reduce these injuries, the benefits of completely eliminating full contact high school football from high school athletic programs, and then how you can help make this happen. Football is a very popular sport in high school. In fact, according to the National Federation of High School Associations, in 2010-2011, over 1.1 million students played football. Now, according to Christy Collins, annually 55,000 high school students report having a concussion while playing full contact high school football. She also discovered, though, that in this research, 1 out of every 2 students that actually gets a concussion doesn't report it. Another common injury other than concussions are knee injuries. They happen very commonly. In fact, David Swenson did a study that showed that 15% of high school athletic injuries are knee injuries. And at least for MCL injuries, football has twice as many of them as any other sport. Now, the hazards for this are really well known, and a lot of research has gone into reducing these injuries. In fact, Salima Drajeki did a study on mouth guards. They've been in use since the 1920s, and she discovered that when mouth guards are used, they actually do help reduce concussions by absorbing the shock from the hits, so it's not all focused right on their jaw. And Stephen Marshall did study on football helmets. He actually compared football, which requires the use of helmets, to rugby, which doesn't. And he discovered that rugby has 3 times the concussions of football. And rugby is the sport that does not require helmets, whereas football does. And then another thing that is used quite frequently to try to help reduce concussions is implementation of the 3-step law. Now, this is some regulations that the CDC has kind of suggested, and the first step is to educate the coaches, the parents, and the students about the hazards of concussions and the signs to watch out for. And the second step, after they've noticed a concussion, is to then go ahead and remove the athlete from playing football and from being at practice. And then the third step is that the student will have to obtain permission from their doctor, from a medical professional, before they are allowed to return. And they have noticed significant decreases in concussions since these have been enacted. But still, Julie Retchell did a study, and even back in 2005, there were still 500,000 injuries related to high school football. Because of this, there has been a real big surge to actually cut football from high school athletics. In the last couple years, a couple big papers, like Sports Illustrated, had author Frank DeFord write an article, and Ken Reed from the Chicago Tribune have both written articles that have been published about how full contact football really should be eliminated from high school sports. Now, if these athletics are eliminated, it'll make the students' lives a lot better. They'll have a lot less injuries if they're playing non-contact sports versus the high-contact football. Less concussions, less brain injuries, less knee injuries needing surgery. And also, it'll save a lot of money for the schools. Mark Dent from the Dallas Morning News got the financial records from over 30 schools in the Dallas area, and only 3 of them weren't losing money with their high school programs. In fact, one of the schools was losing over $200,000 a year in their high school football program. So, you may be wondering, how can I help? How can I let my community know the hazards of playing this football and decrease the risk to the students? And one thing to do is to go to the CDC website. They have handy handouts like this to give out to the parents, to the athletes, to the coaches. It gives them signs to look out for when a student could possibly have a concussion, the importance of reducing play after these concussions. It's just really handy to help make everyone aware of the risk of concussions and the things to look out for. And then another thing that you can do too is at budget meetings for your school, just throw out the idea of cutting football. It'll take a long time for it to get into effect because it is so ingrained in our program and into our heads. But the more you can get the idea out there that, it's okay. It's okay to cut football, the more likely it is that it will happen, and the more likely that with just a little persistence and drawing attention to the issues, we can go ahead and make a change to our culture.